Hello guys, I'm back with another top 5 beginner mistakes in Terraforming Mars. If you haven't seen the first video, check out the link in the top right corner. I will go over some misplays I regularly see when playing with newer players and also talk about how you can avoid them. Let's get started. Offensive tile placement can lead to greater payoff if it stays unpunished, but will hurt you if your opponents capitalize on it. What do I mean with offensive tile placement? Let's say you are playing Tharsis and have already put down your first two cities right next to each other. Great stuff. That looks like the beginning of a nice grid that is really efficient in scoring points. You now want to play Cupola City, another great early game city card, especially for Tharsis. Of course, you want to play it next to your other city cards, to form a triangle. But this leaves you very vulnerable to tile placement cards from your opponents. Maybe it is smarter to hold off playing Cupola and trying to play greenery in the middle tile first. Or you could secure another great area on the board with Cupola City. Another example of offensive tile placement is this case. You can place another greenery by converting plants. But where do you put it? Right next to your first other greenery to secure more plants from the placement bonus? Sounds like a great idea. But this creates a very profitable city spot. If you can follow up your greenery with placing a city there, then good for you. But if you don't, then it might be smarter to play the greenery on the other side of your city, to discourage your opponents from placing cities next to your greeneries, and therefore harming the development of your grid. To summarize, be careful with your tile placements, and be aware that your opponents can always interfere with your grid. In the mid to late game you should always make a calculation. How long until this production card pays off? Does the game last that long in expectation? Games typically last around 10 generations, but this varies depending on player count and playstyle. And also, even if the card pays off by a slight margin, money in earlier gens is worth more than money in later gens. This is a basic economic principle called the present value of money, and also applies to Terraforming Mars. What complicates this calculation is that there are cards that score points and increase your production. So the decision whether a card is worth it should be decided case by case. Also, when calculating the payoff of a card, try not to forget that the card costs you 3 mega credits more when you need to buy it. This point is twofold. Let's start with what I often observe when playing with really new players. You should not buy too many cards. Cards are only worth it when you can actually play them, and especially play them when they are meant to be played. As I told you in my last point, production cards that you play in the late game are hardly worth the investment. So only pick up as many cards as your economy can handle. Many players notice this habit rather quickly and stop buying too many cards, but often it swings into another extreme, buying too few cards, especially in the starting draft. If your starting 10 cards don't include too many cards that need to be played in the first gen, then you're fine picking up some cards that are speculative, have higher requirements, or are only worth it later. It never hurts to have at least a few options, a few cards on hand, because you will get some turns where the draft just isn't that spicy, and then you have something to fall back on. If a card costs you power production, then this card often isn't worth playing if you need to increase your power by using the standard project power plant. Just compare Fuel Factory and Titanium Mine. If you use standard project power plant and play Fuel Factory afterwards, you pay 20 mega credits for an economy boost of 4. Titanium Mine gives you an economy boost of 3 for 10 mega credits. Therefore, Titanium Mine pays off in 4 turns and Fuel Factory just pays off in 5 turns. If you use the card power plant to increase your power prod, then this combo just pays off in 4 turns. So always remember that standard project power plant is quite inefficient and should only be used in extreme cases when you really need the power. I was just talking about power prod, and this gets me to my next point. Protect your resources. This of course includes power production that can be stolen by too popular and cheap cards, but also plants. There are a lot of plant destroying cards, and it really hurts to lose 6 or 7 plants before you can convert them. But why am I talking about power prod and plants but not about steel and titanium prod that can also be stolen? Well, because power prod and plants are mainly there to be consumed either by power hungry cards or by converting plants to greeneries. So the optimal strategy to increase your power prod is to either A. Increase it and immediately consume it by playing a power-hungry card, or B. Play such a fuck ton of power prod that it doesn't matter if one gets stolen. Same goes for plants. Try to accumulate plants as fast as possible, and then consume them as soon as you get the chance. That's why I hate having one plant production. It takes a really long time until you can convert the plants, and until then your opponents have ample chances to nuke them. I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you're new to the game, I hope you found my tips helpful and will defeat your opponents swiftly in your next game. Do you know any other beginner mistakes, or do you disagree with some of my points? If so, please let me know in the comments, and also don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.